This is a cow. This is also a cow. What? Today we're going to take a look at the cow switches from JK's Design. Huge thanks to them for sending these out for review, but of course that won't change my opinions on these whatsoever. These are a 5-pin cherry style linear switch with a 63.5 gram weight. What makes these switches somewhat unique is by using a full palm housing and an UMWIP or a MWPE long pole stem. The stem looks pretty unique compared to other switches. Not sure the use for this extra large surface area here, but I don't think it's doing much other than maybe creating more friction, which I'll get into in a bit. Like I said, these have a long pole stem, leading to these having a 3.69mm travel distance. Coincidence? I think not. I mentioned the spring being 63.5 grams in weight, which is about the same as my KTD Roses, but for some reason these feel a tad heavier, almost like there's a bit of friction or slight drag in them. And I assure you this isn't because of my lube job, because they also have this feeling while stock. I think it's mainly because of the UMWIP stem, or maybe because of the larger surface area on the stem, but I really can't be too sure. Stock, these are actually pretty smooth, and I would say they're good to use stock if they didn't have a pretty annoying spring ping and slight housing chatter. Both of those are fixed when you lube and film them though. If you want to do minimum work, I'd recommend at least lubing the springs and filming them, as it's smooth enough without lubing the housings and stem. But if you want that buttery smooth feeling, then I'd of course recommend lubing these. I ended up lubing the top housings, even though I normally don't. I just wasn't a big fan of the top out sound they made, as it was a bit thin and plasticky sounding to my ears. I did that along with the spring, stem, and bottom housing. Of course though, that's all up to personal preference, so I'd recommend experimenting with what you like best if you get these, or any switch really. These switches have pretty minimal stem wobble, which is pretty expected from even budget switches these days, so it's no real surprise. They do have a bit of housing wobble, which is fixed completely with some films. I ended up using the nylon switch films from Dankebs, which actually changed the sound profile of these quite a bit more than I expected, in a positive way. A common trait of UMWIP stem switches is having a bit of a muted sound, which honestly I'm not the biggest fan of. Comparing these to my Dork palms, which have almost identical materials, the palms have a slightly nicer sound in my opinion. Unfortunately, most of my palms are soldered into my Sarah 75, so I can't give a direct comparison for you, but here's a one-key sound test of them both, followed by a full sound test comparing the cows, alpacas, roses, and strawberries. Do keep in mind that sound varies a ton, so don't take this as an exact sound for the switches. Overall, I'd rank the sound of these switches like this: strawberries first, roses close second, cows third, and alpacas fourth. Of course, this is just my opinion, and you are entitled to your own opinion, which I'd love to hear in the comments. Now onto the feel. The cows, like I mentioned, have a slightly soft bottom out. It's not really that annoying or anything, but it's there, and I personally like a more solid bottom out, which the other linear switches have. These are pretty smooth as well, but if I'm being completely honest, it's still a tad underwhelming. Even though Direct palms have just about the same materials as the cows, like I mentioned earlier, they're actually noticeably smoother, and at a similar price. They have a nicer bottom out and a nicer sound in my opinion with what I've heard. So honestly, I really don't know who these switches are made for. Even if you absolutely love the slightly muted sound, I'm sure there's plenty of other switches that can get you a similar sound while feeling much nicer. These switches are definitely not bad, and if you want to try them out, that's totally fine. And you might even love them, but to me, I feel like they're nothing special and there's some better options out there. Sorry for the really inconsistent upload schedule, as I've been pretty busy with school and stuff, but I do have a few videos planned, so stay tuned. And hey, why not subscribe? I hope you all have a great day. See ya.